there, this is Dr. Colby Peters with Human Systems, and today I'm going to do a demonstration video with the second edition of the Emotion Assessment Pamphlet. And the purpose of the Emotion Assessment Pamphlet is to help us identify our emotions around an activating event. And we can also use the questions in the emotion assessment pamphlet, which we'll look at in a little bit here, to deconstruct our emotions. And I will tell you a bit more about that in a moment. So first, what is different about the second edition of the assessment pamphlet? There are a couple of revisions to the introduction to emotions that I think better explains emotions and emotion deconstruction. And also the questions at the end on deconstructing comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. I changed those a little bit to focus on building self-awareness and applying self-awareness. And I also have updated links throughout the pamphlet to other information from Human Systems and also other tools. So for example, in how to use this pamphlet, there's a link to the virtual emotion wheel app on my website, which is free. You can use it anytime. And then also in the back here, there's information on how to get to the body sensations wheels identification system, which is a newer tool that I developed to help us identify sensations in our body that may be associated with comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. So those are the changes in the second edition of the emotion assessment. And so let's do the demo. I'm going to show you how you might use the pamphlet with an experience that brings up uncomfortable emotions and then one that brings up comfortable emotions. Let's do uncomfortable emotions first. I like to get those out of the way. So my activating event was that I recently showed up to a certain kind of yoga class, and the teacher made a statement at the beginning of the class that she was going to teach something different than was advertised. And I was really looking forward to this particular kind of yoga, and so I had some uncomfortable emotions when she said that. So this is how I can find my emotions using the emotion assessment pamphlet. So I'm going to turn to page 3, and then it asks me, I might have mixed feelings, but primarily, how do I feel? Well, about this particular experience, I feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to go to page 21. And the biggest feeling I have here is afraid. Worried that something undesirable will occur or be done, unwilling or reluctant to do something for fear of the consequences. So I'm going to go to page 22. And I felt confused. Bewildered or perplexed. So I'm going to go to page 28C, and 28C means page 28, box C. It asks me which of these words related to confused fits your feelings the best. You can also just stick with confused. So perturbed, bewildered, or confused. And I think bewildered feels like it fits the best. Deeply or utterly confused or perplexed. So if that covers my emotional experience for this event, I could stop there and I could deconstruct my chosen emotion on page 40, but I have a couple other emotions that are lingering, a couple other uncomfortable emotions that are hanging around, so I want to go back and see if I can figure what those are. So I'm going to go back to here. I know I'm feeling uncomfortable, so I'm going to go to page 21. Okay. I'm also feeling angry, having a strong feeling of or showing annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. So I'm going to go to page 26. And more specifically, I feel indignant. Feeling or showing anger or annoyance at what is perceived as unfair treatment. Go to page 36B. All right, so 36, box B. Which of these words related to indignant fits your feelings the best? And you can also just stick with indignant. Violated, outraged, or just indignant. I'm going to stick with indignant. That really feels like it fits the best. And then I think I have one more emotion that's hanging out. So I'm going to go back to page 21 where the main uncomfortable emotion categories are. And I realize I also feel sad, feeling or showing sorrow, unhappy. So I'm going to go to page 23. And more specifically, I feel aggrieved, showing or expressing grief, injury, or offense. So It invites me to go to page 31A. Which of the words related to aggrieved fits your feelings the best? You can also just stick with aggrieved. So I think I'm going to stick with aggrieved. That really feels like it fits better than agonized or desolate. So those three emotion words that I found, bewildered, indignant, and aggrieved, feel like they pretty much cover the experience for me. So now I can deconstruct my emotion. I'm not going to do all of them in this demonstration video, but I will do bewildered. So it says, learn how to deconstruct your chosen emotion on page 40. You can use page 40 to deconstruct any uncomfortable emotion that you find in the pamphlet. And this page just has a little bit of information on what deconstructing emotions is, which is basically just looking at the contributing component to the emotion. And that includes past experiences, physical sensations, and thought. And when I can pull my emotion apart into the component, I have a better understanding of why I'm feeling that way, and then maybe even what I could do either in the moment or in the future to avoid feeling that way, or maybe avoid feeling that way as intensely if it's an uncomfortable emotion. So there's two sets of questions. One under building self-awareness and then a set under applying self-awareness. So starting with the first question in building self-awareness, what are the physical sensations in my body that are associated with this emotion? So I'm going to deconstruct bewildered. That was the first emotion that I found. That felt like the strongest one for me. So the physical sensations I feel are prickling on my skin and a sudden vacuum in my chest. That indicates to me that I'm having a fear emotion, and more specifically that I'm feeling bewildered. Those are the physical sensations I recall coming up for me when the teacher said that she was going to teach something different than I had been expecting. And then the second question is, what are some past experiences where I felt this same emotional flavors? This question is asking me, are there past experiences I can think of where I felt the same kind of emotion, where I felt bewildered? And the ones that are coming up for me were ones where I trusted that I would get something specific that I believed was really important to my well-being, and it didn't happen in an abrupt and surprising way in a public context. Other experiences that remind me of this experience are like school settings where I expected a certain kind of support or specific information and it didn't happen. And then finally, this experience, this feeling reminds me of interactions I've had with people I trust who suddenly changed their minds about an activity that I was really looking forward to. So there is plenty for me to draw on in my past where I felt bewildered and utterly perplexed. The next question on here is, what thoughts am I having about this experience that may be contributing to this emotion? So I want to think about, what are my thoughts or beliefs that I have about this situation that are picking up this particular bewildered emotional flavor. So one thought I'm having is, I need this kind of yoga class to feel better. This class is critical to my well-being. And another thought I'm having is, I am not safe in this class because the teacher is changing things around. The last question is, what specific aspects of the current experience contribute most to this emotion? So what was it about this experience that really left me feeling bewildered? And the first thing is that it was really unexpected because the classes at this studio tend to be exactly as advertised. So this experience was really surprising for me. And the unexpected change coupled with my state of mind really contributed to my fear. So I chose this particular yoga class because it was supposed to be restorative and gentle, and I really needed that for emotional and physical reasons. So I was walking into this class already feeling uncomfortable. I was already bringing uncomfortable emotions with me. I didn't manage the change as well as I might have if I hadn't been already carrying uncomfortable emotions with me. All right, so now that I have identified physical sensations in my body that are associated with the emotion, some past experiences, the thoughts I'm having that are contributing to feeling bewildered, and the specific aspects of this experience that make me feel bewildered. I've built some self-awareness around the components of the bewildered emotion in relation to the activating event about the yoga class. So now if I want to keep going, I can apply this self-awareness in a way that might either help me feel more comfortable about the experience or help me feel comfortable in future experiences that have the potential to produce those same emotions. So, how can I apply self awareness? So, the first question is, how might I change my perspective or thinking to reduce the intensity or duration of this emotion? I can find my perspective and my beliefs in my thoughts. So earlier I said that I had a thought about not feeling safe because the teacher was changing things up on me. I believe that thought that I am not safe, or that belief that I'm not safe, is a core thought that is contributing to my feeling of being bewildered. So intellectually, I know that's not true. I am safe. It's highly unlikely that I will be hurt in this situation, in this yoga class. And unlike many past experiences with that have the same emotional flavor, I can walk out at any time with no unfavorable consequences. So it's not like I'm back in high school and I'm in a public setting and I am in a class, and if I just stand up and walk out, I'm going to get in big trouble. And actually, that is what I did. I felt uncomfortable enough in the yoga class that as soon as she said, I'm teaching something different, I just very quietly got up and walked out because I had the presence of mind to realize that that was a choice. The other thing that I can do is I noticed in my thinking that I had a thought that this yoga class was critical to my well-being. What I can do is I can detach my sense of well-being from this particular yoga class. So intellectually, I know that my well-being does not totally hinge on this one yoga class. There's lots of different options. I can do something different. I can take a bike ride, I can take a walk, I can, there's lots of stuff that I can do. I just need to remember that I have a lot of options for my well-being, and yoga classes are just one of those options. So as I kind of work through these initial thoughts that I was having, I can adjust my beliefs. So I can realize that I am not trapped in this class, and I have choices about how to take care of myself and how to support my own well-being. So I can make those part of my new perspective, which may lessen my discomfort. And then the last question under applying self-awareness is, how might I adjust my behavior in similar situations to reduce the chances of feeling this emotion? So like I said before, I had the presence of mind to realize that I had the choice to leave the class. I didn't have to stay. Another thing I could have done was raise my hand and ask for more information about what was going to happen exactly. I don't think that's totally inappropriate. I certainly would have drawn attention to myself, which is, given my state of mind, maybe not something that I really wanted to do right then, but it's totally an option, especially if, a teacher says, I know this is a certain kind of class, but I'm not going to teach that class. I think it's within my right to raise my hand and ask for a little more information about that. Also, now that I know what this teacher's teaching style is, or at least I've had a sample of it, I can choose not to take a class with her. So there's lots of teachers at this studio. She's just one of like 15 or 20. There's lots of options. So that's a sample of finding and deconstructing uncomfortable emotions. So let's try a comfortable emotion. So the experience I'm going to use for finding and deconstructing comfortable emotions. So recently I went on a walk with a new friend, and we had a really interesting conversation, and it was also a very inspiring conversation. We connected on a lot of things that we both agree on, and we offered each other a lot of mutual support. So that was really nice. So I had a lot of comfortable emotions around that. So I'm going to go to page 4. And the first category I'll choose is, I felt really accepted, recognized, validated, loved. So I'm going to go to page 6. Of these, I would say I felt invited, to be urged politely and welcomed. So I'm going to go to page 12B. And which of these words related to invited fits your feelings the best? You can also just stick with invited. So there's needed, wanted, and invited, and I'm going to stick with invited. All right, so I have a couple other emotions that I'd like to find. So I'm going to go back. The main categories of comfortable emotions. I also felt interested. We had a really interesting conversation. So showing curiosity or concern about something or someone, having a feeling or interest. So I'm going to go to page 8. And of these, in the interested category, I felt curious. I was eager to know or learn something. I was eager to hear more and continue the conversation. So I'm going to go to 17D. And I also have the choices of thoughtful, inquisitive, and curious. And I'm going to go with inquisitive. Curious or inquiring, curious about the affairs of others. So I was inquisitive. I felt it and I was. I was asking a lot of questions. So that feels like a fit. And then I'm going to pick one more emotion. So I'm going to go back to page 4 where the main comfortable emotion categories are, and I felt loving, intensely feeling deep affection, showing great interest or pleasure in something or someone. So I'm going to go to page 5, and specifically in the loving category, I felt grateful, feeling or showing appreciation for kindness and thankful. And then I'm going to go to page 10B, and I could also choose humbled, beneficent, or grateful. And I think I'm going to stick with grateful. That just feels like it fits my feeling the best in this situation. So those are my primary emotions about this activating event, taking a walk with my new friend. And I'm going to deconstruct invited because that was kind of my biggest feeling. So I'll go to page 39. Where this is where we can deconstruct comfortable emotions. And the questions are similar to the uncomfortable emotions. I just tweaked a word here and there to be more applicable to comfortable emotions. So what are the physical sensations in my body that are associated with this emotion? I felt a lightness and a warmth in my chest. And what are some past experiences where I felt this same emotional flavor? I felt this way in the past when I've met someone who I'd like to be friends with, partly I want to be friends with them because they seem interested in me. So I was feeling invited, like they want to invite me into friendship, into a relationship with them. What thoughts am I having about this experience that may be contributing to this emotion? About this situation, about the walk we were taking and the conversation, I thought that he was clearly making space for me to contribute to the conversation and that he seemed interested in what I had to say. And then what specific aspects of the current experience contribute most to this emotion? So there's a couple of things that make me feel invited, make me really feel like someone is wanting to have a nice meeting with me or a nice experience with me. One is that they show up on time. He showed up to our meeting on time, which I really appreciated. And I noticed his behavior. He was asking me questions and listening for the answer. So those two pieces of this experience, his behavior really helped me feel invited. And then I can use this information where I just deconstructed the invited emotion and I can apply it to the current or future, in this case, future situations. So how might I apply this perspective or thinking to bring more of this emotion into my life? So I think I can remember that I deserve to be accepted and invited by others, and that is a real possibility. So this person is just one of many people in my life where I met with them or I started a friendship with them and I felt regularly invited into a relationship with them. So I think remembering that that is a possibility, that there's lots of people out there and I could start a friendship with them, I think that would help me bring more of this into my life. And then also I can choose to spend time with people who show up on time and ask me questions and listen to the answer. So those are two behaviors that are really important to me. So it would make sense for me to seek out spending time with people who can do both of those things, who can show up on time and who can ask questions and listen. So that is the demonstration of how to use the emotion assessment. This is specifically for the second edition. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.